Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. So we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and emotion today. That's kind of the idea behind the go-to training. Also, happy to answer questions if people have those. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Hand raises or in the text chat box. Anyone have any questions about what's going on this week, things that are happening later, etc.? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, so we're starting off with the anatomy of emotion, and kind of what does that mean? How emotions start. Generally, when something happens, there's the activating event. So something happens in our life. Generally, it can be some sort of adversity. We have something, someone, maybe someone does something. So maybe they do something to us. Maybe they do something in general. Something happens. But there's some sort of event. Something happens and it triggers something in us. Where we go from there is generally a belief system. So people try to make meaning out of the world. That's kind of how adult humans function. They say, oh, this happened and I need to make sense of it. So we tend to develop a belief or make up a story about it. And sometimes that story is spot on, but sometimes it's like way off. And what I mean by that is like, someone might, someone's having a party and they didn't invite me. And I say, oh, well, they're having this party and they didn't invite me to it. And, I want to make a meaning up about that. And, I say, oh, well, this person doesn't like me. And maybe it's because of something that happened or they, or there's something wrong with me. And I create a story about that and I develop a belief system about that. The reality of that situation is just, they didn't invite me. They didn't invite me for whatever reason it is. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they hate my guts, but I don't know. And I tend to make up, ideas or stories about that based on trying to make sense out of the world. It's kind of when we spend too much time by ourselves, it's really easy to get into, some end of the world type situation where everyone, we get the stories going about, oh, well, everybody hates me and nobody wants to be my friend. And, this kind of, it's easy for our brains to kind of go in that direction. Generally, the reality of the situation is nothing like that, but it's what happens. From there's consequences to our beliefs. So we start making decisions and actions based on the likely faulty beliefs that we've developed. So right, there's consequences. We kind of start making decisions about that. We act as if those beliefs are reality, and it can be. It can be detrimental to us as human beings. So I would always encourage people to stop and kind of take a minute and go from there. And I'm sorry, it kind of jumps from like ABC to the D and E are handled slightly differently. They're illustrated slightly differently. Disputation. So that's us. We start challenging the ideas, and this is where hopefully we're challenging the ideas, and we haven't just elected to believe them. So what I mean by that is challenge the absolutes. We might have some idea, we might have whatever it is, but we have to actually start challenging it and say, hey, you know what, this happened, but either there's something there or there's not. If there is something there, if our belief is accurate and we have this idea and we really think something's gone wrong, then we can act accordingly. Or we can say, hey, I'm not going to continue to live based on this single event in my life. So it kind of fluctuates there. And the last one is energization. So we review our emotions, kind of focus on our positive emotions, and we try and develop a rational outlook for moving forward. So even if something bad happened, how is the best way we can move forward with our lives? Being rational. Miguel, I see your question. What if something happened to us? And it's what happened. I mean, yeah, sometimes bad stuff just happens. Sometimes people are jerks to you. I wish I wasn't part of life, but it is. Again, even if we have something that happened, we kind of have to figure out how we're going to move forward. That's kind of what life's about. It's about looking how we can be productive moving forward. So again, positive emotion and a rational outlook. If we continue to take things from the past and put them into our future, or we assume because we were treated a certain way in the past that we're going to be treated that way again in the future, it can keep us from moving on with our lives. So that again is where maybe we're taking, the beliefs that we've developed and creating consequences for ourselves in our own lives, whether or not that's actually going to be part of our future. We can put that out there for ourselves, and we can kind of sabotage ourselves in the future. So kind of keep that in mind, when thinking about things and, challenging some of the beliefs you may have developed about yourself. Generally, we're the ones who are holding us back more than anyone else. So just some stuff to think about when it comes to emotions and the ideas that we develop about ourselves. Faulty thinking. We can get these ideas, that kind of cover a lot of different stuff. We can come up with ideas that we have about ourselves. That all kind of can be pretty rough. I think that throughout life, a lot of times as children, we come up with these ideas, and we take on roles. Some people, it's something that you see in your family. It's roles that you pick up there. Sometimes it's, roles that, at one point may have served you well, but can become a hindrance as we get older. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, especially for myself, I'll just talk about me, as a youngest child, it's real easy to be helpless, and people will help you, your older siblings will help you, your parents will help you. You can just, at first you are not able to do things, but then eventually it becomes pretending, for a long time when I was a kid, I pretended I couldn't do things so people would do them for me or help me with them because I just didn't want to do them. If that continues into adulthood, or I continue to act as if that's the reality, it can be a real hindrance to me. I could easily, carry that into my adult life and say, oh, well, I can't do this because it's too hard or it's too tough or too challenging or whatever it is. And the reality is that, my family was allowed to, my family let me be helpless for a while. And that didn't really happen that much. They nipped that in the bud a lot. When I was a kid, they said, nope, you're too old for this. Do it yourself. But, we can get all sorts of other ideas. We can be heroes. We can be, damsel in distress, the plate spinner. You have so many things going on. Some people have to be, feel in charge of everything. So there's a lot of different ideas that we get about ourselves, labels that we put onto ourselves. So I'd encourage everyone to just kind of stop and think and say, what labels have I put on myself over the years? What label have I picked up and worn? And maybe it served you at one point, maybe it never served you. But what labels do we put on ourselves, or do we allow others to put on us? And what are we doing about that? College is a great time to reinvent yourself. That's what I found. Most of you are probably in a new town, meeting new people. College is a great time to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was, I felt I was this way in high school and I don't want to continue being that way. So what can I do to challenge that? So I really encourage everyone to just kind of take a minute and, think about those things. What labels are you still carrying around with you? The myth of multitasking. This is a pretty interesting one. Basically, what it boils down to, multitasking doesn't work. I have a video which I'll play for you guys in class tomorrow, but multitasking doesn't really do what we think it does. The video will explain it better, but essentially what it comes down to is it's not that we're able to do multiple things at once. It's that we are able to rapidly cycle through different things, it ends up being that we're not nearly as productive as we think we are. We just feel busier because we're rapidly moving from one task to the next. So, some people that works for them, some people it doesn't. I think that this is multitasking versus time batching, which we talked about yesterday. I think that time batching and batching the activities that we're working on. So, if you have some scheduling to do, work through, as much scheduling as you can. Or if you have, math homework, I wouldn't flip flop quickly between like a math homework and an English homework. I'd say get all that math homework done, then go do the English homework and get all that done. Multitasking and trying to flip back and forth between them is difficult, and it ends up not being very productive. So just kind of things to keep in mind. We'll go more in depth into it in class, but something to think about. Right. This is exactly what I was just explaining. Our attention is switching. So what ends up happening is our ideas get bottlenecked. So, we're trying to, our focus is only so wide. And when you keep trying to throw lots and lots of thoughts and decisions and activities into things, it kind of just slows us down overall. Multitasking can result in, essentially lower IQs because we're not able to focus as intently on one topic, and we have diminished proficiency. So we're just not as good at what we think we're doing. The overcoming that is 20-minute rule. So spend 20 minutes on one thing. If you have something you have to do, give it your full attention for 20 minutes at least. After that, if you're ready to move on, and if not, then keep working on it. But right, understanding that it's a myth, understanding that it's probably not going to be great for your productivity. I realize that sometimes we can only give something 5 minutes of our time. If we only have that much time, we only have that much time. That's the reality. But understanding that we will lose proficiency and it won't be as helpful to us. Pretty important information to kind of keep track of. Mindfulness. So mining the mind. The ideas behind mindfulness, are essentially being in the moment. Taking time to stop and appreciate what's going on around you, and stopping and saying, hey, here's what's important to me right here, right now. There is actually a mindfulness video, and I apologize, I did not put it in the material section. I'm going to put it in the text box. So if everyone wants to click on that, we can watch that video real quick. That's actually, I think it's worth the time to just sit and watch. So I'm going to pause myself for a few minutes. We'll watch that, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed that. I feel like they do a kind of a much better job explaining that. There's a nice, fun, video that goes along with it. So right. So I think being mindfulness. I think mindfulness kind of goes hand in hand with the anatomy of emotion that we were talking about earlier. Knowing what you're feeling, um, knowing, kind of maybe some of the beliefs that we need to challenge in our lives may come up when we're flustered, when we're having a hard time. We might have some ideas about ourselves, or stories that we're telling ourselves that aren't positive, that we need to challenge in those situations. So I would encourage everyone to kind of take some time to exhibit mindfulness. You know, just develop awareness. Just say, hey, how am I feeling right now? What's going on with me? Am I overwhelmed? Is something, and there's going to be a lot of times in school where we are, it just happens. I had plenty of times in school when I'd be sitting in class and I'd get overwhelmed. I didn't think I had a grade. I thought my grade should have been better than the one I got, or whatever the idea is that we have. And I had to stop and sometimes remove myself from situations. Sometimes I said, hey, you know what? I'm too upset right now to deal with, what's going on. So I'm going to take a minute, remove myself from the situation, calm down, take a beat, and then go address the situation when I'm a little bit more calm. Because, we all know, sometimes we're not at our best. And if we go and try and, address things like that, it might not be the best time to do it. So, just something to kind of keep in mind. Practicing mindfulness really helps us when that time investment is really great, and it ends up being paying off for us later on in life when we're flustered or upset. So right, just kind of connect those things. Emotion, mindfulness, like I was just saying. Practicing mindfulness helps us to avoid multitasking, which is nice, keeps us aware of our emotions, and eventually it becomes a habit, but it takes practice. It's one of those things that, if you're not doing it on a regular basis, it's going to be difficult to do. So, take the time while you're in school and say, hey, I'm going to, work on developing this. I think overall I end up being a lot happier and, end up being a lot more productive. So, it's a pretty solid plan. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask them. Does anyone have questions about other things outside of this topic specifically? Feel free to jump in, raise your hand, whatever makes you happy. I'll sit and take questions. If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. It's a short one today. I realize it's the end of the week. We don't have a lot going on. I'll plan on seeing everybody tomorrow in class. Yeah, Miguel. Meditation is a great way to develop awareness of emotions. Is what I'd really say. Kind of being aware of what's going on with you and what's coming up in yourself. So I definitely would recommend it. The Happify videos are pretty good. If you want to watch some more of those, they're a pretty good resource. But I definitely recommend checking them out. Yeah, the link to the video is right there. Feel free to take that. All right, see you tomorrow. All right, if anyone has any questions, feel free to hang out. And if not, I'll see y'all tomorrow.